Hello again, it's Jimmy here at O'Reilly's, and we've come to service a Ford Transit that's got an engine management light on, but I think you can see where this is going. Okay, we're inside the van, 121,000 mile, let's start it up. Engine management light's on, and it's in limp mode. Now he's called me out to do a service. Obviously I'm suspecting, he's hoping obviously that the service is going to get rid of that. But let's run a diagnostic scan like we have, and boom, we have particle filter restriction, soot accumulation too high. So let's go back, read the data. Data on the DPF. Just use my other hand. $35. And we got 250 to 300 there. Just give a little flick of the key, see if we can get the accelerator to come up a little bit more. So yeah, the DPF is a little bit high there. So let's go into special functions and do a little quick test on the vaporizer. We're going to prime up the vaporizer. What this will do is it will put some diesel through the vaporizer into the exhaust. We can then start the van up, see if we get some smoke coming out the back end. If we don't get some smoke after we've primed the vaporizer, then we know the vaporizer is not working. But what this will normally do is, if the vaporizer is slightly blocked, priming it up will force some fuel through and unblock it. So we're going to press OK on that. And this is the Launch Euro Tab 2 diagnostic scan tool. So that's going to pump now for 120 seconds. Now by doing this, you should hear a little ticking noise coming from that vaporizer fuel pump just under there. Okay, now that's done. Turn off the ignition. That's succeeded. Now we'll start the engine up, give it a rev, and we should see some smoke coming out if it's successful. If we don't see smoke, then the vaporizer needs replacing. Start the engine up, and we'll accelerate it some. There comes back the limited power there again, so we're now can't rev past that point. Okay, you can see there lots of smoke, so that vaporizer is definitely working. Okay, so I showed you the trick where we can prime up the vaporizer, and if the vaporizer is not too badly blocked, you know, if the soot is not like concrete, priming it can push some of the soot away and then unblock it. So that saves you a lot of hours trying to get those out. On these customs, the vaporizer is right up here behind the bulkhead, and sometimes you need to take the exhaust off. It can be 3 or 4 hours to get it off, burn off the vaporizer because they're seized on. So that saves some time. Okay, now you can see the engine has warmed up. The temperature is warmed up yet, and now it's warmed up. The pressure has increased like it usually does and accelerated up 275. Okay, so now we're going to clean the DPF, and then we're going to do a service as well, oil change and a fuel filter change. So we have some of the parts in here. So again, I'm going to be using this launch fluid, 50% with 50% deionized water. So I'm going to use a couple of hand tools, the pliers to get the clip off, and this little trim tool just to push off the differential pressure tube. So I use a little bit of rubber here just to make the seal into the vaporizer tube. This just makes it connect a little bit better. You just use that to connect it. And I just push that little rubber tube over the cone there on my gun, and then we can, sorry, just try and get you up there with the camera. We can then slip that tube over there, get a nice tight fit so we don't get any leaks. So now we can use the gun. This is connected back to the compressor in the van, and we can just squeeze the fluid in. You see that white fluid there just going up through the tube, and that'll fill up the DPF. So now that's all in there, we're going to let that sit for 20 minutes. So now some time's passed, we're going to start it back up. And then while the engine's running, we can put more of the fluid into it. First, we'll just clear out some of the fluid that's in there. And it'll look something like that. And now we can get the rest of the fluid in there while the engine's running. So that's just going to push it all around the DPF while the engine's running there. So that's it, we're all out. Gotta always remind myself to check it's on the right unit there, HPA. Okay, now we've turned the engine off temporarily, and we're going to go into reset the DPF. Reset the particle filter, learn values. There we go. Yes. Engine on, ignition. Engine off, ignition on. That's done. Now we can go back, and we should be able to clear the fault code now. I'll go in and read. So that's clear. Back to the data stream again. Okay, so now that that's done, we're just going to give the DPF a rest for a minute, and we're going to crack on with the oil change. And I'm trying to use a tool on this to open it because it's quite tight. She's a tight girl. She's a very tight girl. Not in a good way. Okay, I had to use both hands there, but we finally got it loose. Just spin that out and let her drip. And a 13mm socket there to open the oil sump. Get a new blueprint oil filter there. I'll just hand tight that on. Now here I'll use a tool for the fuel filter. Okay, we're back under the vehicle here. Fuel filter is right here. We're going to drain it using this little screw here at the bottom. I will wait until that empties. Now that it's empty, we just slide up this tool all the way up to the top there. And we can try and open it. And now we've got it turned, we can just lower it down. So now you've got your O-rings already on the top and the one on the filter housing. You just need to find a little arrow there on the top and line it up to the arrow on the casing. If we come to the filter housing, I don't know if you can see there very faintly, there's an arrow there. This is where it goes in and that's where it locks. Turn right. So we just turn it back into place there. It's only a short turn from about here to there, and we can get the tool back off. And put the plug back in. Now we'll fill up the engine oil. It should take roughly around 6 litres, but just check your own vehicle anyway. So what I'd usually do is put around 5 litres in and check the dipstick and then carry on from there. Top it up bit by bit. So now it's topped up with the oil and we've changed the fuel filter. So to get the fuel filter primed up, I'm just going to cycle the ignition key 3 or 4 times. Each time we turn the ignition on, we're going to leave it for 10 seconds, turn it off, wait 10 seconds again. So turn it off, turn it back on and wait another 10 seconds. We'll do that maybe 4 times before we start it up. That'll prime up the fuel pump. And you can see there it's nice of the customer to leave us 8 miles in the tank. So in this vehicle here, if we have a look up here at the heated windscreen plug, she's been getting hot. And you can see why, because it's loose. It just falls out. So we're going to get that crimp back up together. And did you know that the heated windscreen power supply there, that is linked directly down to the vaporizer. So when the vaporizer comes on for DPF regeneration, the heated windscreen comes on with it. And we've tested that power supply. It is working with the meter there. So the heated windscreen is going to work. We just needed to crimp it up. That's all, just so it's nice and tight, so it's got a nice tight fit. If you got a loose connection on electrical plugs, it generates heat and the plugs can melt. So we give the van a few revs. Now we've come across this issue before with very blocked DPFs on Ford Transits. Excessive pressure causes excessive heat. Now the van has just cut out. So what happens is if we try and start the van, nothing happens. So now we need to wait exactly 1 hour until that timer is finished, and then we can restart the van and continue. Okay, an hour has passed. We're back online. We have 8 millibars or HPA on idle. Let's see where we are on revs. We need to clear that code as well. It's hard to get a steady rev on it. Let's increase it a little bit. So we're up around 70. It's higher than I'd like it to be, but it's low enough. And another thing I do know about these Ford Transits is once everything has worked its way through properly, that will decrease even further. I've returned to a few vans after I've cleaned them for servicing, and I noticed that the pressure was way lower than when I left it. So that's it, Ford Transit DPF cleaned and serviced done.